Good morning. Thank you for joining us today
Morning. Thank you for joining
for
us
our
today.
first of what we hope are ongoing webinars regarding how the pool and spa industry is responding to the drought and how we can help you and your constituents be responsible pool, spa, and hot tub owners and users. My name is John Norwood. I'm president of the California Pool and Spa Association. CPSA is a statewide trade association of pool builders, equipment manufacturers, the service industry, distributors, and retailers. What we plan to do today is have a brief presentation, and then we'll finish with questions and answers. You can submit a question anytime, and we will handle those at the end of the presentation. Today, I'm joined by Keith Harbeck, president of Premier Pools of Sacramento. Keith is one of the association's most active members. There are about 1.2 million residential pools in California and an additional 46,000 commercial pools. That means 1 in 50 residents in California has a backyard pool or has access to a pool. A recent study conducted by PK Data indicates that the pool and spa industry generates $5 billion in economic activity each year, $1 billion alone in new construction activity. It also produces 55,000 jobs across the entire industry and over 8,000 jobs in new construction. Through building permit fees and local and regional tax measures, our industry generates millions of dollars in local economic activity as well. This is an industry that consists primarily of small businesses, including builders, construction companies, subcontractors, material supply stores. These small businesses were hit very hard during the recession. Many businesses, including Keith's, took out loans just to keep their doors open and their employees working. Now that the economy is coming back and interest rates are still pretty low, people are beginning to consider building a pool again. And of course, that's the debate. Should new pools be built during a severe drought in this state? In 2013, approximately 12,600 new residential pools were constructed in California. It took approximately 698 acre feet of water to fill all those pools. That may seem like a lot, but it's less than 1% of the state's annual water use. Put another way, in almost every city we've looked at, we found that the water needed to fill new pools in that jurisdiction is substantially less than 1% of that jurisdiction's annual water use. Once these pools have been built, they're as water efficient as California friendly landscaping or drought resistant landscaping, depending on where you live. If we can get more Californians to use the variety of pool covers that are available on the market, pools with a cover are equal to or better than drought resistant landscaping. For the next slide, I want to turn the presentation over to Keith Harbeck. Keith?
Thank you very much, John. What I was hoping to do here for the next few minutes is just go over some of the data and some of the statistics that we think clearly illustrates that when restrictions are imposed on swimming pool construction, the swimming pool industry, they're really symbolic restrictions. And I'd like to illustrate that in two ways. First of all, something you've already touched on, John, is just the actual amount of water swimming pool construction actually does use statewide. But secondly, and maybe more importantly, is once a swimming pool is installed, once we do our installation, what's kind of the long-term effect of that? Have we created a high water use backyard or a low water use backyard? To address the first point, as far as how much water that is, this slide mentions 698 acre feet of water. That's for the entire state. I want to make sure everyone knows that. That's for all pools built in the entire state of California. It's actually, for urban water use, it amounts to 8/1000ths of 1% of the state's annual water use. So it truly, truly is an insignificant amount of water that's used to fill those pools. However, as John mentioned, As far as economic impact, just the construction industry alone, we're not talking about all the ancillary industries, but just construction alone, that's 12,000 jobs that are created for that many acre feet of water used. It actually amounts to $800,000 in economic impact from pool construction alone for every acre foot of water used. So almost $1 million in economic impact for each acre foot of water. But if we go to the next slide, I guess a real important question, though, is even if it's insignificant amount of water, great economic impact, what have we done? Have we turned that backyard into a high water use backyard? You'll notice at the top of the slide, it says pools replace lawns. That's not always true, but typically that's true. Because when we go into a backyard to build a swimming pool, we're taking out that central area of the backyard. In many smaller backyards or even larger ones, it's right where the lawn would typically be. We remove that lawn. Often there's only left, after we make our installation, a small area for drip irrigation or plants. What isn't known, unless you're in the industry, is what does our average installation look like? And that's what this slide demonstrates. We take about, on average, 1,200 square feet of a yard up with our installation. 475 square foot is an average size pool. But with that pool, because there's a necessary walkway, people want their patio areas to be able to sunbathe or be by the pool. And this is a very conservative number, 725 square feet of concrete. My company is actually averaging more than that this year, but we thought this would be a nice conservative estimate. So we take up that 1,200 square feet of what used to be irrigated landscape area. So what does that mean? Well, the average pool, that pool that we're talking about, takes just less than 17,000 gallons to fill, 16,877 gallons. The makeup water on an annual basis, that's through evaporation, splashing, and so forth, estimated at 14,796 gallons for a total in the first year. And that includes the fill water in the first year of 31,673 gallons. Now, the statistic you see on the slide for lawn is from a study done by the Public Policy Institute of California. The study was titled Lawns and Water Demand in California. That's the water use of a lawn, 42,480 gallons. What that illustrates, let's go to the next slide, is that even in the fill year, when we replace a lawn, even in the year we fill that pool, the initial fill, we'll save close to 11,000 gallons, 10,807 gallons over a lawn. The water savings every year thereafter, 27,684 gallons. Interesting thing, I notice a lot sometimes in the media, a lot of talk about draining and refilling pools, like that is done frequently. Just wanted to point out that we fill a pool, and the average, a pool won't be drained for maintenance or repair or remodeled on average for at least 10 years. What I find in my company is that we're often going out to pools that are 12 or 15 years old to do repair work or so forth on them, and they've never been drained. So anyway, that's kind of what it does on a yearly basis. However, some will say, well, yeah, but that's lawns. What about if people used more efficient type of landscaping? What you see on the screen right now is a pool water use worksheet. And again, I'd really like to emphasize that these aren't numbers that the pool industry has made up. The data for water use from lawns, as I mentioned, was from PPIC. The rest of this calculator you see is a direct reproduction of the Santa Margarita Water District calculator. So these are not pool industry numbers, but those are the sources for them. Again, at the top, this is a calculator where you can actually type in assumptions, the average depth of the pool, the square footage of the pool, the decking. We've put in that same 1,200 square foot average typical pool. And again, we're now going to compare it not just to lawns, but to all types of landscape. Again, you see the number of the fill volume. But below the fill volume of 16,877 gallons, now we get to see what is used on an annual basis, and we compare it with the use of the Santa Margarita water calculator to different types of landscape. A pool without a cover, 14,796 gallons. A pool with a cover, you see that's the lowest one, skipped that one, sorry, 8,878. So water use, the most efficient for this square footage, this 1,200 square feet, is a pool with a cover. The second most efficient on an annual basis is a pool without the use of a cover, and we're strongly encouraging the use of covers. Then you have, in descending order, the higher water users, an annual water use of a lawn at 42,480. 28,000 is the annual water use of traditional landscape. And then finally, the new ideal, if we could get everyone just to landscape everything with drought-resistant materials, it would still use 16,821 gallons. Below that, and I wanted to point this out, I hope I'm not boring you with too many statistics, but we hear often, and I read in stories, well, yeah, a pool uses less water, but it takes many years, or it takes multiple years for that savings to occur, which is a valid and key question in the drought. But if you'll notice, year one, if you read across that line, a pool with a cover, then a pool without a cover, the lawn, 42,480. Well, you experience a savings even in year one. Then look at traditional landscape. Even a pool without a cover is right there with traditional landscape when we remove that. And that's in the fill year. Again, we're calculating the year we filled the pool. And then finally, drought resistant. Yes, it's only 16,821 gallons, but I assure you the pool industry is not tearing out many drought resistant yards to put in swimming pools. And then obviously, once you get past year one and you're no longer filling the swimming pool with water, the savings just mount up. You see, even in year two, a covered pool is right there with drought-resistant landscape, and then pulls ahead in year three. The final slide here that we have is just a graph. Sometimes a picture tells 1,000 words. That top bar on that graph is lawns. The next one is traditional landscape. Then you see the next two is a pool without a cover and drought-resistant landscape running neck and neck. And then the most efficient use of water is a pool with its surrounding decking and a covered pool is what you see there. So again, hopefully that's been helpful. I think sometimes people just see the body of water and they think, well, you're putting a big body of water in a backyard, but our installation just necessitates and requires hardscape. One of the things we notice now is it's not just the decking around the pool. People are putting in outdoor dining areas. They're putting in kitchens. They're putting in pizza ovens. These become gathering spots, healthy recreational areas, and the safety and privacy of one's own backyard. And as it turns out, they use far less water once they make these installations. So hopefully this illustrates that this restriction or talk about pools surely is symbolic. You're eliminating not ornamental landscape, but if you don't let people put in pools, that's a functional, a great area for families. It doesn't result in water savings. It's just a tiny bit of water that's used to fill the pools. And then thereafter, it prevents installing backyards that are going to use far less water than any type of typical landscape in the areas that they take up. And then lastly, of course, we're eliminating jobs and damaging the economy if we resort to this symbolic gesture. So that's all I had. Maybe John has some more to add about hot tubs too.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I do want to talk about hot tubs a little bit. It's interesting that oftentimes hot tubs and spas have been included in some of the water use restrictions we've seen. It really doesn't make a lot of sense. A standard hot tub contains approximately 400 gallons of water. Because that water can last for 4 months or longer, hot tub usage averages out to less than 3 gallons a day, or just 1% of total household water consumption. That number about changing the water out every 4 months is what manufacturers put in their materials, But the reality is that with new chemicals and maintenance procedures, water in hot tubs can last a year or more. Another key fact is that hot tubs are covered all the time. The new hot tubs are so efficient that it's cheaper to keep them at, let's say, 100 degrees rather than warm them up each time you want to use them. As a result, they lose less than 5% annually of water loss by evaporation. And that's always been the key issue with pools and hot tubs and spas is water used by evaporation. There's almost none when it comes to spas and hot tubs. There are many consumers who rely on hot tubs for municipal purposes, including common conditions like aching muscles, arthritis, and stress. And they use a hot tub rather than soaking in baths or taking extra long showers for the benefits of warm water therapies. So, compared to indoor jetted tubs and showers, hot tubs are very, very efficient and shouldn't be included in any restrictions. Best of all, the water is recyclable and may be used to water lawns and landscaping before the spa is refilled. I guess we should go now to the next hot tub, or next slide, excuse me. CPSA wants to be part of the drought solution. For the last 18 months, we have been working with water districts and city councils to support regulations that help improve pool, spa, hot tub water efficiency without placing restrictions on our industry that is really nothing more than a symbolic gesture. Our focus has been on education. Last year, we created Let's Pool Together, a campaign educating pool and spa owners about ways to make their homes and backyards more efficient. Some of the tips we include are investing in a pool cover, which significantly reduces evaporation, checking for leaks, and lowering the pool water level to reduce splash out, and having more water efficient filters. These are tips included in door hangers and building stuffers that our members send out to pool and spa owners or leave at the property during their weekly rounds. We've also worked with many water districts, city councils, and utilities to provide these tips to them as well so they can include them in bill stuffers and their newsletters, etc. Some water districts have required new pools to have pool covers, which we support. In fact, I know that Keith's company and a number of our members provide a free cover with every pool they build. Lastly, there has been a lot of information, as Keith indicated, about draining and refilling of pools. A well-maintained pool typically needs to be drained every 10 years or so. In many cases, there are new chemical treatments available where pools can be addressed without the need to refill. And we'll talk about those in a few minutes. In addition, we have some of our members that use scuba gear to do repairs on pools. And that's another way to save water and conserve water from having to be emptied for pools. Let's go to the next slide. CPSA continues to work on ways to make pools and spas even more water efficient. We're currently working with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo on an evaporation study to determine how efficient types of pool covers, including bubble covers, solar rings, solar squares, and the new liquid pool covers work with regard to evaporation. Some of our members are utilizing temporary above ground pools to store water while they remodel existing pools. Some are using water trucks and rubber bladders to do the same thing. New technologies now allow for water to be cleaned without the need to ever dump water and refill pools. These are really expensive. However, there are trucks now that are available. They'll come to your home, pump the water out, treat it, pump the water back in, and that replaces the need to completely empty a pool or substantially reduce the pool. New pool filters use less water than traditional sand filters. Spas and tubs, as I mentioned, are covered when not in use. There is very little water evaporation. In short, the industry is innovating to meet the challenges of the continuing drought, and there's more to come. At this point, Keith and I are available to answer any of the questions that you might have on this presentation or other issues that you might want to raise.
And as we mentioned, if you have a question, you can type it into the right-hand bar of the presentation, um, and we can answer them as we go along. And in the meantime, we have a couple of questions here that I'd like to start with. What city councils and water districts has CPSA worked with so far?
Wow, there have been many. At the beginning of this year, we sent out all of our materials to over 600 water districts and to every city in the state of California. We've since the state has implemented the mandatory conservation mandates. Almost every city has addressed the issue of water contingency shortage plans, and we've interacted probably with 50 or 60 cities that have raised the issue of bans on filling or refilling of pools. It's very difficult at this point to be specific, but it's been lots.
And when a city has a ban, how does CPSA respond?
Well, in most cases, we try to address the issue before the city council takes action. There have been a number of situations where, unfortunately, we didn't get notice. We've just recently come up with a monitoring system now that's giving us notice of this as an agenda item for every public entity in the state. So in the situations where we've gone back, we've just essentially interacted with the city staff and members, essentially told them about the facts of water use by pools, engaged in discussions about that, and we're very pleased that a number of cities have reversed their ban. West Sacramento last week, Huntington Beach last week, Thousand Oaks last week. There's been numerous other cities where a ban on filling or refilling pools were in their stage 2 drought stage, and we believe that any type of a ban on filling or refilling pools should be in the same stage where there is now no longer potable water used for outdoor irrigation. And so a number of the cities we've interacted with have agreed to move bans on filling or refilling pools back to a stage 4 or whatever that might be. If you look at oftentimes at stage 2, the only item in there that's going to put anybody out of business is a ban on filling or refilling pools. Other things are you can't serve water without requesting it. You can't wash your car without a hose bib. You can't use a hose to spray off the water, etc. One other fact I just might mention is that the amount of water it takes to build and fill new pools in California is actually less than what the Car Wash Association says it takes to wash cars using and recycling your water.
Great. Well, that's all the questions we have. Unless anybody has any others, then I think we will end this webinar. We will send everyone who registered and is participating the PowerPoint slides as well as some of the handouts that we have. And we look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you so much and have a great day.